Jasmine Moore walks into the University of Ancaster on her first day as a freshman student and immediately feels the vibe of college life. It's giving white flat mocha. An older student approaches and asks for her name. When she checks for Jasmine's room, she turns to the others and says that Jasmine got the room. Confused by their reactions, Jasmine asks what's wrong, but no one tells her. That same day, Gail Bishop moves into her new home as the first black master of their university. Oh no, I can never look at Regina and not quote scary movie. She calls someone because the door is locked, but when she turns, she finds the door is finally open. Jasmine meets her roommate in room 302, Amelia, and they instantly become friends. Later, Gail Bishop welcomes the new and current students. She tells them about the university's rich history, being nearly as old as the country. She also confirms the legend of Margaret Millet, who was hanged for being a witch. Jasmine quickly makes friends with Amelia's friends, and they celebrate their first night together. When someone drops some alcohol, they make the one black girl clean it up. Later, she gets comfortable enough to admit to them that she has a history of sleepwalking. Apparently, she peed into a dryer back home. I bet her mom whooped her ass. The next day, Gail is getting her portrait drawn inside her home when she hears a bell. She follows the sound and finds a room upstairs with the things from the previous room owner, including a set of house bells. That's when you know a whitey wrote this movie. Black people do not follow creepy noises. Gail finds a creepy photo of a family, and in the background is The Help. On her first day at the cafeteria, Jasmine finds the staff's enthusiasm uplifting. It's giving finally some color. However, when it is her turn, the black woman frowns at her. Confused, Jasmine just moves along. She gets disoriented by the fast-paced surroundings and starts to hallucinate a little. Cindy, this is a skeleton. This is bones. Later that day, when Jasmine arrives at her dorm room, she finds Amelia and her friends hanging out. A guy named Tyler wonders if Jasmine is at their expensive school because Jasmine knows Beyonce or the Williams sisters. Someone blurts out Lizzo. Ain't no way I'd let these pale, buck-ugly fools do me this dirty. Tyler says that their room 302, is haunted. Amelia and Jasmine refuse to believe the story, but Tyler insists it is true. He says the whole school is cursed by the witch, and she takes a freshman with her every year. He adds that the witch shows herself on the chosen student at exactly 3:33 in the morning. Tyler even mentions a schoolmate who jumped out the window, scaring Jasmine. Then, they all laugh at the end of his story. Jasmine is excited to participate in class, but she finds it quite hard to deal with the professor, Liv Beckman. Liv just never likes any of her answers. She keeps participating, but Liv is never impressed. Liv is giving pick-me-girl. Gail hosts a party to celebrate her new position. The other professors show up to congratulate her for being the first black master at their college. However, some fugly woman says they should call Gail Barack. Now let's bury this woman 6 feet under her plantation. Later, Gail finds a fat mammy under the sink. Meanwhile, Jasmine is hanging out with her new friends. Amelia says she and Tyler are not dating. Later that night, after the party, Gail visits Liv at her house to vent about her uneasiness about the school. Liv says she knows this all too well, but dismisses Gail's feelings. Jasmine goes to the library and sees a portrait of Margaret Millet. Why is it giving white face? She chats with the librarian about the legend in her classes before heading out. However, when Jasmine leaves, the detector goes off. The librarian rechecks her stuff and asks to check her bag. Girl, ain't nobody wanted to steal from the library. One early morning, a hand reaches out from under Jasmine's bed to touch her arm. Jasmine wakes up and finds it's 3:33. When she gets up to check under the bed, she wakes up. Amelia is angry at her because she is ignoring her. Jasmine explains that she must be dreaming. However, she's confused because she finds traces of blood on her arm. Jasmine is proud to submit her analysis of the Scarlet Letter, but Liv is unsatisfied. Jasmine argues with Liv, saying there is no critical race in the Scarlet Letter. Liv says it's okay for Jasmine to find it difficult because this is advanced stuff. Jasmine says hell to the nah because Liv don't know her background. One night, Gail is reading a speech on the phone with Liv. Standing up to get a drink, she's shocked to find maggots in one of the drawers. Even though she's terrified, Gail can't tell Liv what happened, and she has to wait the next day to get it cleaned up. Next thing she'll find might be the TV leaking.
The TV's leaking!
Jasmine goes back to the library to learn about the incident that happened in their room. She discovers that a black student named Louisa Weeks was found hanging by her roommate in room 302. That night, the lights die when Jasmine is still in the shower. She gets scared, thinking someone is looking at her. However, when she turns to check, she doesn't see anyone. She finds a note saying not to leave her hair in the sink because it's disgusting. Jasmine gets an F on her paper. She refuses to accept her grade and decides to meet with Gail to ask for help. Gail checks the paper and commends Jasmine's writing. Then Jasmine hands Gail a paper, saying she's filing a dispute. Gail tells Jasmine not to take grades personally, but Jasmine insists that she's never failed before in her life. During a meeting, a committee tries to decide whether Liv Beckman should be tenured. Some are convinced she's done enough to be tenured, but some think she has not published enough and is still not qualified. Some professors doubt Gail can be fair with her decision because they know she's friends with Liv. Gail then reveals that a student filed a dispute against Liv because of a failed grade. Upon hearing that, a committee member thinks the dispute changes everything. Soon after, a woman named Esther Bickert calls Gail at her home, looking for her daughter. Gail is annoyed and tells the woman to call the registrar's number for student matters instead of her private number. Gail hears the house bell ringing again during the call, so she heads to the upstairs room. She finds something different from her finished portrait and soon discovers it's infested with maggots coming out of the mouth. Gail screams at the sight and decides to stay at Liv's house that night. Nah, I wouldn't be trusting that girl, sis. That same night, Jasmine goes to a party with her friends. A student refuses to let her in and she only gets inside when a friend pulls her inside. She enjoys dancing and doesn't notice Tyler watching her, even though he's with Amelia. When the students change the music and start singing, including the N-word, Jasmine leaves the room. Tyler finds Jasmine alone in a room. He admits he finds her cute before leaning in for a kiss. When they pull away, they find Amelia standing in the doorway. Tyler then leaves Jasmine to follow Amelia, who runs out of the room. On her way home from the party, Jasmine spots Amelia watching her from a dorm window. She then notices someone inside their dorm room. She starts feeling scared and feels like she's being followed. When someone grabs her neck, she wakes up from her nightmare. Jasmine opens her eyes to the sound of knocking at her door. She finds Gail standing outside, horrified because the word "leave" carved on the door with a noose hanging on the doorknob. Gail takes Jasmine to her office to talk about what happened, and Amelia soon arrives and joins them. Amelia says she did not return to the dorm the night before, and Jasmine doesn't say anything, even though Amelia would be an obvious culprit. Gail thinks it's a serious issue and should not be taken lightly, but the girls say they can't think of anyone who could have done it. Gail senses tension between the two girls, but both Jasmine and Amelia say they get along fine. Jasmine finds several visitors taking a tour inside their building. The visitors keep throwing looks in her direction, leaving her confused. To her surprise, the group eventually stops in front of her room. They all turn to look at her before proceeding. Jasmine pushes her way to the front door and finds herself asleep on the bed. The guide presents the sleeping Jasmine as part of the tour before introducing the creature outside the window. Jasmine tries to wake herself from the nightmare, but it's impossible because everyone is trying to stop her. When the creature puts a noose around her neck, she wakes up to find Amelia near her bed. Jasmine is frightened, but Amelia says Jasmine was talking in her sleep and she's just checking on her. Out of curiosity, Jasmine checks the archives and reads Louisa Weeks' diary to know more about her. Meanwhile, Gail is on her late-night run when she notices something in the dark. She finds two male students who quickly run away from her. Then, she finds Amelia shaking from the cold. She takes Amelia inside and tells her they can discuss what happened, even insists on bringing her to be inspected. However, Amelia refuses to explain and insists she will just transfer to a new university because she knows people will talk about her if they find out. Amelia reveals she can't get in their room because Jasmine locks it from the inside. When Gail checks, she finds Jasmine's photo on the door scratched. As everyone leaves for Thanksgiving, Jasmine decides to stay at the university. She finds Amelia packing more than what she needs for a break and finds out she's leaving for good. Jasmine wants to talk before Amelia leaves but can't find the words to say. One night, in their building, a person wearing a robe stands behind Jasmine. The light dies, and the alarms start to sound. Frightened, Jasmine walks around and ends up finding a burning cross in a room. Luckily, Gail walks in and pulls her to safety. Afterwards, we see that the university creates a commercial to make it seem more inclusive than they actually are. Another black student approaches Jasmine in the ladies' room and sympathizes with what she's going through. She then invites her to join a meeting with other students of color. She hugs Jasmine before pulling away when Jasmine's friends walk in. Her friends make fun of the students of color group. In a meeting with the other professors, Liv snaps and confronts them. She asks why they are spending more time undermining her application for tenure when there is a racist on campus. She thinks it's an emergency and encourages the professors to see the hate Jasmine is receiving. That night, Gail goes to the room upstairs when she hears the familiar house bell again. A strong wind is blowing inside the room before there is silence. There, she's startled to find a black maid crying, looking back at her. Gail panics and falls to her back. When the bell rings again, she's back to reality. On her way home from the library, Jasmine sees someone wearing a robe following her. She screams and runs as fast to her dorm before the thing catches up to her. She locks herself inside her room but knows she's still being followed. It's already 3:32 in the morning. Jasmine hurries to the window to escape, thinking twice about what to do. At exactly 3:33, the door opens and Jasmine falls. She finds herself on the hospital bed the next day. Gail is looking after her and is deeply concerned about what happened. Jasmine admits that she's running away from the witch, but Gail tells her the witch isn't real and thinks it's a metaphor for racist America. Gail fought against those demons and is on top now. Gail tells Jasmine that she can't get away from her problem, and it will only follow her. That night, Jasmine comforts an old white woman crying in the hospital. But when she touches her, the old woman snaps and tells her, and I quote, to get her black hands off her. Jasmine returns to the university the next day and tells Liv she finally knows what she has to do. As Gail makes her way home, she sees that Jasmine's room lights are turned on. She realizes Jasmine is finally back, so she goes inside the dorm to check on her. Gail uses her key to enter the room and is horrified to find Jasmine hanging from the ceiling. She cries, hugs, and lifts Jasmine's legs in an attempt to save her, but it's too late. A dark figure can be seen from the outside, standing in Jasmine's room near the window. Gail takes the initiative to pack Jasmine's things, and the students and faculty mourn her death. Afterwards, Gail and Liv talk about how difficult it is to be a black woman. Liv says she finally feels like she belongs because this was the only job that was willing to take a risk on her. Gail catches Liv slipping when Liv says her brother. Gail remembers Liv says she was an only child. Liv brushes this off as a mistake. Still grieving, Gail receives a call again from Esther Pickard. She says her daughter Elizabeth goes by the name Liv. Upon hearing that, Gail agrees to meet her. Esther says her daughter disappeared from their community, and she only read about her in the newspaper. She shows Gail a photo of Elizabeth, and Gail is surprised to see a white girl in the picture. Esther says Elizabeth now goes by Liv and claims to be black. All right, this is the real-life story of Rachel Dolezal. Esther tells Gail that Liv ran away from her Amish community. Esther says the devil is inside Liv. Gail immediately goes back to the university to confront Liv, who is currently having a party after being tenured. When Liv plays City Girls, act up and pulls her to dance, Gail finally snaps. She pushes Liv away and starts ranting about how fake she is. Gail complains that the professors only gave tenure to Liv because a black girl died, and the university is trying to make up for it. The other professors are all surprised by Gail's actions. But Gail goes full Brenda mode and tells the other professors to STFU. Gail says she was never the master, but the maid, brought to the university to clean up any racist controversies. Gail continues to blame herself for what happened to Jasmine. She says Jasmine wanted to leave, but she encouraged her to stay. She cries in anger and everyone just stares at her. Gail finally calms down and talks to Liv. Liv assures Gail that she told her the truth and insists that Esther lied. She says her father is black and doesn't have to prove it. Gail doesn't know what to believe anymore because she doesn't fully understand the story. Liv tells Gail she's lucky her life has a different story, and then she puts on her robe and walks out, leaving Gail behind. The other professors validate Gail's feelings and say they understand how stressed she might be. As Gail looks around, she notices how the portraits in the house look like her white colleagues. Gail realizes nothing is ever going to change and walks out. Outside, security stops her and asks for her identification. Gail lies and says she's on her way out and that she doesn't work there. The guard points her to the exit and Gail starts walking. Students call her name, but Gail keeps walking away from the university, leaving everything behind. The movie ends just like that. Now, there's a lot of themes in this movie. There's Liv, who is racially ambiguous. She could be Rachel Dolezal, but also could really just be biracial, who is co-opting her blackness to further herself in an institution. A lot of Jasmine's mental illness was probably amplified if Liv was involved with a lot of the racist occurrences in order to get tenure. However, the movie failed to explain most of the supernatural occurrences that Gail was going through, or the story of Margaret Millet was never called back to. What did you guys think of this one?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.